Welcome to this episode of Wiki Walks, a short podcast devoted to some of the more intriguing and, who knew, articles that you can run across in the weird world of Wikipedia. I'm your host, Chris Grismer. Hello, listeners. Welcome back to the show. Just a quick warning to start off. Most of our episodes are pretty family-friendly. They might be a little bawdy, but this one, while not graphic, does have some themes that are perhaps geared towards an older audience. So if you're listening with kids in the car or whatever, this one could be dicier. But it's a story that I think needs to be told. Have you ever stumbled upon a truly dark chapter of history that seems too unbelievable to be true? Well, buckle up, because on this episode, we're taking a stroll through one of the most horrific cases of child exploitation you've probably never heard of. Beulah Georgia Tann was born in 1891 in Philadelphia, Mississippi. Named for her father, a powerful judge, she hoped to follow in his footsteps and practice law. Instead, her domineering father forbade it, and she instead pursued a career in social work, one of the few socially acceptable positions for a woman of her means. She first went to work in Mississippi, but was soon fired for inappropriately removing children from impoverished homes without cause. She made her way to Texas, where it's believed she adopted her daughter, June, in 1922. Then she moved to Memphis, where her father used his political connections to secure a new job for her as executive secretary at the Memphis branch of the Tennessee Children's Home Society in 1922. You see, in the 1900s and 1910s, formalized adoptions were fairly rare. But in the 1920s, adoption began to be marketed as a shortcut to societal improvement. And with the rising popularity of eugenics, it became important in adoption not just to get babies, but to get the best babies. So you might be wondering, where is this all going? Well, picture this. It's the 1920s through the 40s in Memphis, Tennessee. On the surface, the Tennessee Children's Home Society seems like a noble orphanage, giving destitute children a chance at life. But behind those closed doors was Georgia Tann, and a child trafficking operation so vile, so mercenary, it's kind of hard to fathom. Tann realized there was a lucrative market for adopting children, especially for the rich and famous who were willing to pay top dollar. Actors, authors, entertainers, including Lana Turner, New York Governor Herbert Lehman, all adopted Tann babies. In 1947, Joan Crawford adopted twins, Kathy and Cindy, from Tann. This was no some minor fly-by-night operation. She systematically stole thousands of children from poor families across the state. To kidnap and traffic her victims, Tann paid off a network of social workers, police officers, doctors, and lawyers. Some kidnapped children from preschools, churches, and playgrounds for her. Kidnappers preyed on poor children and families who didn't have the means to fight back. Her scouts would scope out quality kids, and Tann would roll up in her big black car, offering them a ride or lying that she could get them medical care. And more often than not, those kids never saw their families again. Elaborate backstories were added to stolen children's files to make them more marketable. Their files said they came from good homes with very attractive young mothers, and their fathers were described as intelligent, often in medical school. With a network of corrupt officials helping grease the wheels, Tann essentially turned child trafficking into a $1 million business, in the 40s, mind you. And the legitimately adopted kids, well, let's just say the house had a moderately less than stellar track record when it came to, keeping them alive. The reports are gut-wrenching. Children were starved, beaten, sexually abused, and allowed to die from incredible neglect and lack of medical care. If a baby was too ugly, it might literally be left out in the sun. This was Tann's way of cutting costs on, as she put it, damaged goods. Others recount rampant molestation by caretakers as just part of the nightmarish life there. At one point, Memphis had the highest infant mortality rate in the entire country because of the Home Society's practices. Despite all the evidence and first-hand accounts, Tann's punishment? She got to die peacefully at her home before anyone could officially prosecute her. The records were then tightly sealed, leaving thousands of victims to spend decades searching for their true identities. Many never found their birth families at all, and not a single person was ever prosecuted for their roles in the black market baby ring. I know it's a heavy story, kind of a departure from our usual fare, But the adopted children, now senior citizens, have tried to find empowerment in sharing these long-buried truths. Because, as dark as this history is, keeping it in the shadows only compounds the trauma. By speaking out, they're ensuring the horrors of Georgia Tann's house are never forgotten. So the next time you come across a battered old building or a forgotten patch of history, perhaps take a moment to dig beneath the surface. You might just unearth an entirely new world of secrets, just waiting for the light of day.